Good afternoon, everyone. And I just want to thank you and for inviting me to the conference and also having you guys here. For the past couple of days, I've enjoyed and learned so much from each speaker that I've sat in, and also the conversation that I've had so far. So today I'm going to really just share about my experience after have been teaching in India for 4 years so far, and it's more about getting the idea of digital literacy in the college first year student level. So a little bit about my personal background, because a lot of you might wonder like how someone like me moved all the way to India and teaching over there. So I actually grew up originally from Taiwan, got all my education before I came to the US, and also got my MBA degree and got through my personal my public accounting experience in the States for 6 years, and then got the opportunity to also work in a startup. Then later got acquired by a very big corporation. I worked there for another 6 years. So you can see my experience has a combination of different elements in there. Halfway through my career, I realized that maybe I'm one of these people who have climbed the ladder against the wrong wall. So when an opportunity came up and my spouse, my husband, completed his PhD degree, we started to look for opportunities where I can figure out which wall my leader should lean against now. So India became one of the destinations where the higher education institutions are popping up left and right, and they are recruiting aggressively for foreign faculties. So being a junior professor, my husband, and me with some corporate experience, we two together seems to be a good package to to get recruited in the Indian education. So we started 2 years in a university, a private university near Delhi. We were there for 2 years, and then we shifted to Flame University. This is where I am right now. I think today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the liberal education in India, based on my experience and my knowledge, and then how I kind of rebrand the course from the concept of ICT knowledge to digital literacy, and some of the opportunities and challenges that I've seen through this experience, and what else can we actually take the course forward. So that's where my current university is. It's a city about 3 hours away from Mumbai. This university actually was one of the first pioneers which promoted liberal education in India. It started about 10 years ago. It started quite small as well, and it was not a standalone university back then. It was affiliated with a state university, a Pune State University, because the Indian government doesn't allow private-owned university back then. Up until about around the time that this started, about 3 years ago, the university finally gained its independent status and is able to issue its own degree as a university. So it has a history of liberal education, but at the same time, it's also trying to figure out how do you actually have a liberal education in India, where most parents or most people, their mindset is more about choosing a specialization. The best choices for parents is sending their kids to becoming a computer engineer, a software engineer, or a doctor. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the reason why I realized that the concept of digital literacy, if I ask most of my students in the class, nobody knows what it means. And if you actually Google online, the thing that associates digital literacy with India is about getting people who are very underprivileged to connect to internet, which is very different in the context we are talking about. So when I joined this particular university, one of the biggest reason that I joined here is I saw a lot of focus and interest in leveraging technology. And they have already implemented Moodle 5 years back, and they have already invested in tools like Salesforce, trying to use the latest technology to help to improve the student experience. So a lot of investments have done in this area, but for some reason, there's a gap between how much the management is willing to invest versus how much faculty members or how much students are actually seeing that benefits. So my role when I joined had two folds. One is to help bridge that gap, and the other thing, kind of a special assignment that got handed to me, is they really believe in technology and they really want their students to be able to leverage it. They introduced a course called IT Literacy 2 years back before I joined, and then they were telling me how frustrated when they saw students left very negative comments about the course, not about the faculty members. They didn't have problem with faculty members. They didn't like the course because they feel like we know how to use computers already. Why are you asking us to learn, what is a CPU, how do you navigate, website, like we know all of that. And when you talk to faculty members, they actually also complained that, yeah, it seems like a useful course, but it's difficult to actually to deliver the course to every single first year student. And usually you have a class of 50 plus students in a classroom setting. And the type of class that we are trying to do is trying to do a lot more hands-on, so they can learn tools, they can learn skills during the class hours. So it makes it very challenging and almost impossible. So nobody loved it. And for me, I look at it as a way of how do I solve this problem, leveraging my experience in the past. Since I work in the software industry, I kind of have this problem-solving mindset that I wanted to rethink of the experience I want to bring to students. Knowing that we already have the technology platform over there, and it's just a way of how I leverage it to the extent that I can. Another thing that I noticed is we are talking about a private university where they recruit students from over India. And one thing to understand the education system in India is it actually has multiple boards governing the education. Some students can be on an international curriculum where they are able to actually apply for overseas college easily after they finish their high school education. But there will also be other governing boards. They are only state focused. So they have very, very different curriculum design. And being a private university, you recruit all of the students based on the interviews and also the entrance exams that they participated. So in one situation, I have a student who came to me and told me that she used to stay in a boarding school and they are not allowed to use computers, period. No email access. Once a week, you communicate, you can get online, but that's it. So this is one spectrum of student. And I have another spectrum of students who their school offer iPads. They do programming using iPad. They are everything. There's no paper. Everything is technology driven. There's smart classroom. There's smart board. So how do I actually making sure that everybody gets something out of this teaching experience is one thing that I'm trying to solve. But I personally feel like it doesn't matter what it is. Being able to acquire digital skills or being comfortable with technology itself is the most essential component that I want to build in this course. So what I had, after I have multiple conversations with students, I did my information gathering with faculty members who taught course, and I had kind of come up with these are the main focus that I want to make sure my course has. One is to make sure that it is more learner focused, meaning that students have some freedom or autonomy to decide how they want to push their efforts forward. The second thing is I need to rebrand the course. It cannot be called IT literacy anymore. It has to be something else. And then another thing I realized is too bad. I mean, I know I have a lot to offer, but not everything that I want to include in the curriculum. So I said, I'm going to find partners. I need to figure out who I can partner with. And the last thing is I need to leverage the platform to the extent that I can. I need to just make sure that everything that has been invested at the institutional level is being leveraged. So with this in mind, one thing that I did with the class to kind of break ice and also kind of get students to change their mindset is, I don't know if you guys have watched a video in YouTube called Did You Know? There's this YouTube video, Did You Know? And then you talk about all the changes of technology, how things move so fast that we don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now, what kind of jobs are there. So after they watch this video, this is what I show them. So this is the classroom experience in Middle Ages. And then if you look at their classroom setting, what has changed? So this makes it an easier transition into telling them that we need to do something about this. What I will do the best I can to help them transform this experience, but I need them to kind of be on board with me, and they will need to take ownership of owning their learning instead of being a passive learner sitting in a classroom. And I find that this introduction became pretty powerful when especially some of the students who are already ready to jump in. So with that, I then redesigned the course into weekly components where on a weekly basis, I try to figure out, in terms of digital literacy, what are we talking about? And of course, I did some research online. I look at, the 21st century learning skills and also some of the European digital skill models. I mean, all of these are grand frameworks that I couldn't really push that to students, but what I can do is I can borrow a little piece of this, a little piece of that, and then building my own kind of a learning journey. So the idea is they need to recognize that they need to be a digital age learner themselves. Mm-hmm. They do some kind of self-assessment, asking themselves where they are, and then making sure that they know some kind of safety tips, know how to participate safely online, and also getting them to self-assess their current online habits. Then moving on to be a better searcher, not just knowing how to type in a sentence in Google and expect the answer to come back, but also knowing some of the advanced search skills. And in this session, I also try to leverage people from the library to actually introduce them some of the library resources that we have. And then moving on to, okay, this is knowing or picking up some of the skills that many of them who came to college have not done before, knowing a little bit basic of HTML or CSS, and being able to build a future profile of their own. So it's very basic, but then when I incorporate the assignment that got them thinking about they themselves, they all seem to feel more interested and engaged about this kind of exercise. So basically, this is more like a weekly or bi-weekly course that modules that I planned out, and each of these is actually a Moodle learning component. So there is a Moodle learning lessons building, and every week they have to go online, complete each of the Moodle lesson, and come to the class. We won't have lectures. We will have activities for them to do in the class. And for a session like this, when it comes to, I also want them to expose to technology. So I get them to, this is where I partner with my visiting faculty members to bring him in to introduce him about AI, AR, and blockchain. So get students to think about that. So this is an example of how my course look like. And I know here people use Moodle as well, so it's just, I would love to hear some of you, if you use Moodle, how you leverage this tool. So this is how I'm doing right now to look at the overall student progress. And at the end, I think one of the components that I introduced to actually get them on up their learning is doing the component of ePortfolio, because our institution has Google Drive, and Google Site is a free accessible tool for them. So everybody can use Google Site to create their own portfolio, and weekly there is a question or entry related to their learning, so that they can self-reflect what they have done so far. So these are just examples of how students leverage their bingo box or keep track of their learning using bingo box on the ePortfolio. And like I said, if you focus on them, they tend to want to do more. And in a weekly, they actually keep track of what they have learned so far. And for me, it's also a way of letting me know whether they are learning what I intended them to learn. Digital badges is one thing that I would love to explore a little bit more. But I do have students who came to me and saying that they are very excited about claiming the badges. Last thing, Kahoot game is one thing that I use a lot in the course, and it kind of get them more excited and engaged with the class itself. My partner so far has been wonderful, and he is able to actually collaborate with me because he has a lot of industry experience, so he can break down the concepts, complex concepts in a very easy way. So I am blessed with someone like him. So some of the challenges that I have is basically, one way is about infrastructure. In India, I know people here probably won't have that experience, but internet connectivity is an issue. Power outage can be an issue, and this can disrupt the experience itself when you are not able to get everyone stay connected all the time. Another thing is, I don't have a good way of knowing whether people actually open the video and read it or watch it or not. I know they click on it, but I don't know if they watch it. So how do I do that? And then I'm doing this course, and it's a standalone course. Unfortunately, I don't know if students got interested in, for example, website design, where I point them to. So that's I feel like a drawback in terms of delivering this. However, I do feel that there are a lot of opportunities that I can explore once I start to build that connections with my colleagues and getting them understand maybe some of these things that we are doing in the course can actually benefit. For example, ePortfolio can be used for other subjects as well. Perhaps it can be a 3-year-old ePortfolio that students are building. So, the end, I just want to say that a lot of, I came to this position knowing that I didn't have previous background, never taught a course before, but I feel like when I change the mindset, when I be honest, be frank with students, and we are doing this together, we learn throughout the course together, and that way kind of help them become more engaged and also take ownership of this is their responsibility to learn. Of course, there are still this couple of students who really need more help, and I would love to offer more help when it comes to students who are really having challenges to get on board with kind of the regular course outlines. So that's what I have for today, and I hope I'm not going over too much.